Greetings once again. This is the Zander channel. This is a continuation. We are on Chapter 6 of Critical Thinking. This is a redo because some of the audio cut out. This is identifying negative thought patterns. Negative thought patterns may result in the development of detrimental behaviors. To effectively deal with negative thought patterns, it's essential to find them, remove them, and redirect them to positive thoughts. The principles of neuroplasticity may come in handy for the transformation process. Sorry, I'm just getting set up in here. Here, you should aim to use the tools regularly for maximum effect. When working on the process of dealing with the negative thought process, you have to resist the urge to use shortcuts to your mental destination of your positive thoughts. The result is usually dealing with symptoms instead of focusing on the root cause. The result can be a forming of negative feedback loop as you undergo frustration when you realize the patterns are still in existence. So this is what Western medicine does all the time. We treat the symptoms, but not the cause, right? I feel so much better because I'm taking drugs and medication to alleviate my feelings. Feelings are there so that your body can tell you what's wrong and that you need to fix something. Not necessarily that you need to be on this medication for the remainder of your existence. I am not a licensed doctor, so please do not take advice from me if you have medications after a fashion from especially the Western side, because they will find me and sue me, right? Talk to your doctor. See if they know what the cure is rather than putting a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. Just saying. Some ineffective ways of dealing with negative thought patterns include imbibing on alcohol to try to forget the offense linking to such progress or processes. This keeps you in that pity party on Friday nights, drinking away your money, just to find out when you do become sober, those problems are still there. So you may want to rethink what you're doing and try to solve the issue using critical thinking and then doing research on your own to find out what you can do, because you are responsible for your own body and your own mind and everything that is in relation to you. It's not the government that's supposed to take care of you. No document anywhere, no law says that the government is for you. Govern, to control. Men is a Latin term, a Greek term for mind. So controlling your mind is what the government does. Right there, people. Figure it out. Such methods can act as short-term distractions and diversions, but will not solve the underlying challenges. The challenge with short-term solutions is that they may worsen the condition in the long term. Right? Focusing on the bigger picture, for example, attaining inner peace should keep you on the right path to dealing with negative thought patterns. You have to remember that getting rid of negative thought patterns is a mental issue whose solution requires mental practicalities. How do you find those? Well, you can use cognitive skills to get to the root cause of the negative thought pattern. These skills give you the ability to relate the matter and then the resultant negative thoughts. The negative feelings can be recognized by their effects. For example, depression. You can identify contrary thought processes, for example, through the consideration of issues or events that one may consider mentally as a failure. But failure is what? To fail. First attempt in learning. Unrelenting self-criticism is a basis for the adverse thought patterns. Negative thinking patterns are usually repetitive and quite unhelpful. They leave you in a worse emotional state than before because you're in that negative feedback loop. And you start linking your past bad, lower vibrational energies and feelings to the new events, right? So now when you think about this event, you're going to link it back to the other events because it's emotionally the same feeling. When you're self-critical, you're likely to project a behavior onto others by constantly scrutinizing them. Critical people usually also suffer from low levels of confidence and self-esteem. Pardon. Got to have my hotness. It's November. It's a little chilly. Now, they encourage thoughts of anxiety, depression, suicide. You may end up in experiencing fear, low self-esteem, shame with these such feelings, helping you identify the occurrence of the negative thought pattern. Embarrassment can be an indicator of such thought models. So to be effective at finding triggers for negative thinking, always be on the lookout for them. More than likely, they're pretty close together, every other 5 minutes or so, maybe even more for you, depending on how far down the rabbit hole you are towards the negativity. A sign of negative thought patterns is negative imagings that have no factual basis. Believing in the possible appearance of a negative experience without actual proof can be a sign of negative thought processes. The need to be perfect is an indicator of negative thought patterns. Such a mindset usually in tandem with the need to always be in some sort of control. You may call it self-improvement. Here, one is always looking for their weaknesses instead of appreciating their strengths. You may notice negative thought patterns by the unceasing desire to attain some sort of status. You may focus on achievements in an unhealthy manner, willing to do anything to get your recognition. Ooh, pick me. Ooh, look at me. Right? Even if it's negative. Negative feelings like those of unworthiness can be an indicator of negative thought patterns. Guilt, regret, it may be indicators of the negative thought patterns. Right? The lower vibrational energies that you continually loop through is a part of your negative thought pattern. So zeroing in on past experiences from the point of shame as opposed to the intent of learning can be an indicator of a negative thought process because you're focused on the emotion and not on the idea of learning from that event itself. What can you learn from that event that happened that gave you that shame, that gave you that depression, that gave you that guilt, that regret? What can you learn from that? That's the question, not I'm going to experience this feeling forever. Disassociation from the positive happenings in your life can be an indicator of negative thought patterns. You're withdrawing from your positive happenings because you're creating a negative thought loop pity party in your own mind. Once you find the triggers for your negative thought patterns, you have to opt to get away from them or remove them from your environment. Exaggeration of negative experiences, either from the point of occurrence or impact, can be an indicator of the presence of a negative thought process. Anything negative is an indicator, right? Anything negative. Anything relating to a negative feeling. Because events mostly are neutral. It's the feeling that you stick in there based on your past experiences that makes them a negative experience or a positive experience. Such a mindset is always accompanied by the downplaying of any positive developments. You're not looking for the positive, you're only looking for the negative because that's how you've been programmed by the public, by the family that you're with, by your friends that you always hang out with, because misery loves company, does it not? Negative thought processes cannot allow you to notice any new appearances of a positive nature. Feelings of frustration and anger can also indicate negative thought processes. Focusing on negative situations that you have no power to change can also be an indicator of the presence of a negative thought process. You only control what you create, which is your thoughts. You don't and can't control somebody else's thoughts and actions, right? You're no puppet master. Just like you do not want somebody to control you, your actions, and your feelings, neither do they. Why are you trying to change something that you cannot control? You only can change the way you feel and the way you act in relation to the event and to the now. Focusing on a negative situation that you have no power to change is an indicator of the presence of a negative thought process. Apathy can be another indication of encouraging negative thought processes. And you have no feelings whatsoever. I don't care. I'm going to step on that ant. Don't care that it's a living creature. Feelings of hopelessness can indicate negative thought processes. Embracing a negative mindset can lead to a negative thought process. Here, you're always looking for the negative in the current happenings. So now you're focused on the negative in the present moment, and you're bringing with you negativity, so that's all you're going to identify with, and that's all you're going to see. Identifying negative thought processes can help you use skills effectively to remove and redirect them to a more positive mental space. Losing a connection with those you relate can be an indicator in the presence of a negative thought pattern. The result is you may suspect and blame them for non-existent behavior without taking the responsibility for your contribution to the current state of affairs, because you brought all that negative baggage with you and you put it on your friends, on your family, and now you're in an argument and they have no freaking clue what you're talking about. Losing touch with yourself, for example, to the extent of not taking care of your health can indicate the presence of a negative thought pattern. What's the nutritional value of a Dorito, of a potato chip, of a candy bar? Where's the nutrition in that? Overthinking can be an indication of a negative thought pattern. The constant need to be busy is a signal of the negative thought pattern. Here, you try to drown yourself in work to prevent thinking of what's causing your anxiety. Mind wandering, inability to focus can indicate the presence of a negative thought pattern. So how do we remove those? By embracing a growth mindset, that can help you remove the negative thoughts, because a negative and a positive cannot exist at the same time in your mind. That's why we have a negative thought loop, okay? When you think about the negative stuff like anger, you cannot think about love or joy, because that's a positive thought loop, okay? So once you switch from the negative stuff that you're usually always thinking about and switch it to the positive aspect. Usually when people are in their families and stuff, they're taking pictures of all the positive events. You want to record the event. You want to record this forever to see that smile. But usually we do not take pictures of things that remind us of the negative thought loops. Okay, now we are, because of TikTok, and everybody wants to show, look at me, look at how this person treated me, to justify to an external source your emotional status. Nobody wants to see your pity party. Although it's very good with drama in today's society, because that's what we're used to seeing. And they say, oh, well, at least I don't have as bad as that guy, so my life sucks, but it's not as bad as this guy. But if you switch to a positive mindset, to embrace growth rather than stagnation, rather than dwindling down to nothing. Because right now, more than likely, you're in a stagnation mode. Critical thinking helps you move up and grow, to feed yourself, to feed your life. This is going to require you to look for opportunities to sharpen your innate abilities. What are your innate abilities? What is your passion? What is your purpose in this life? Go check out my book, Habituating Happiness. As you do this, you may have an increase in self-esteem and self-confidence, which will result in replacement of the negative thought patterns with the positive thought patterns. You start to have better self-esteem. You feel good about yourself. You're going to move forward with that. Adopting a healthy lifestyle may be a way of removing the negative thoughts, as a diet influences neuroplasticity capabilities. Some diets promote positive neuroplasticity while others support the development of a negative feedback loop mechanism. Which do you want to feed? The wolf that's bad, or the wolf that's good? How do you want to live the rest of your life? In misery, in the negative emotions of anger, frustration, lack? Or do you want to be creative? Do you want to contribute? Do you want abundance? You can remove negative thoughts by changing your environment. This helps immensely. You're in a different environment altogether. Most people don't know you for who you were, but who you could be. This may result in new perspectives, with traveling contributing to the process of neuroplasticity. You're meeting new people, whereas the people that you're with now are a part of your pity party. You can only grow according to the soil around you. Changing your environment can mean changing how you react to a variety of situations. Getting rid of negative emotions like anxiety, stress, depression can support the removal of negative thought patterns. Worry, low self-esteem can also lead to similar thought processes. The same can occur due to an increase in the capacity to handle adverse effects, which such capability developing via the process of neuroplasticity. Adopting a relaxed viewpoint will support this process. Replacing the negative thoughts with positive ones will remove them from your mind, as opposite thoughts cannot exist in your mindset. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be removed completely, but we need to replace them. You will still have your reactions. You cannot necessarily completely reprogram all the stuff that's already happened to you in your life. How many years has that taken to entrench itself into your mind? All that negativity is still going to be there. But it's your choice to say, thank you. Got it. What did I learn from those situations? What can I still learn from those situations? What was the lesson there, rather than my emotion clouding my judgments, my emotion clouding my learning experience? The one emotional vibration has to give way to the others. So on this specifically, what I'm talking, vaguely, is the negative versus the positive. They cannot exist together. Okay, so one emotional state of positivity cannot exist when the negative state is there, and vice versa. One way of removing the negative thought pattern is to recognize them for what they are. They're thoughts, which can change like that. These tools diminish their power as it delinks them from defining who you are at the individual level. Delinking should not be associated with the denial, as the latter involves self-deceit. This happens when you smoke and when you drink. You're pushing those emotions down. They're out of your mind for now because you're busy in a different feeling of drunkenness or some sort of feeling you get from when you're smoking, whatever it is you're smoking. It's pushing the emotion down. You don't feel it because it's being suppressed. And now you're compacting that into a ball. And sooner or later you explode on somebody. And then later on you go, damn, why did I do that? That was not right. It's because you trapped all your emotions and you pushed them down from smoking and drinking. And it got triggered, and then you exploded on somebody or a group of somebodies. And then they're all looking at you like, damn, dude, relax. What the fuck? Right? You've had that happen. So regarding your thoughts in such a manner, can provide you with the objective view upon them. Looking at them from a second-person perspective will give you the power over those things, because that's all they are. They're just things. They're thoughts. You have the power over them. But when you look at them from a secondary perspective or a tertiary perspective, now you're demanding that you look at them from a different way. So your ego has to not be in your way as strongly as it usually is. Because there's something called tacit acquiescence. When you don't object, then you agree. Okay? You don't say, no, that's bullshit. Where's the truth? So now your ego is just allowing you to agree with all this junk, all this negativity. And then your ego is going to tell your subconscious to focus on more negativity. So when you start pulling yourself out of this, you need to come in from a second-person perspective. Where's the positivity in this event? What can I learn from this event? Well, nothing. Well, let's take another look. Let's step back, relax, stop standing in fear, stop standing in anger, and let's take a look at this. So, looking at them from a second-person perspective will give you power over it. Such a viewpoint can help you regard them skeptically. So when you are skeptical of their point of view, you're less likely to follow their instructions. You do not necessarily consider them as truth. A lot of the news that's out there today, doesn't matter if it's faux news or if it's the Communist News Network, it doesn't matter. It's their viewpoint. Is it the truth? If you listen to the same thing every day, all day, you get what's called the Hitler Youth. Because that's what happened in World War II. When Hitler would come in, they thought of him as a god because that's the only propaganda that they got. So they just understood it as truth because that's the only information that they would receive, right? Delinking can allow you to regard thoughts that are of value to you and discard those that are detrimental to your goals. You will view them as passers-by, only keeping back the useful ones. Such a mindset will provide you with the power of choice on whether to follow their suggestions or remove them from your thought process altogether. It provides you with the chance to either believe the thoughts or discredit the thoughts. The faster you can untangle from your thinking process, the higher your chance of removing negative thoughts. So to be productive at removing adverse thoughts, you should remember that having them is not an indication of something being wrong with you. You'll have your thoughts, their thoughts. You'll have your feelings, their feelings. But when you objectively look at both of them from a second or tertiary perspective, that's when wisdom comes in. Wisdom is knowledge without the emotion. So as long as you do not regard adverse thoughts to be valid, you can remove them from your mindset. This doesn't jive with where I'm going in my life. This is not what I want. This is a negative thought. Yes, this event happened, and that is a negative part of that event. But what's the positive output from that event? What can I learn from that event? Yeah, it was a negative thing, but what can I learn from so now that I know I don't have to face it in the future? Their power over you will diminish when you counter to check them against your reality. The result will be a diminishing probability of the appearance of the negative emotions, usually accompanying such negative thoughts. Right? So now you're training your mind to go, got it. Let's get rid of the negative thoughts. Let's look at it objectively and move forward rather than jumping into a freaking little pity party of nothing. It doesn't do you any good. So you regard such thoughts as mental events, right? That's all they are. They're not reality. So now the the negative thoughts will fade away is they have no staying power because you're not feeding them any emotional energy, which they would ordinarily get from your belief system and your emotions. So now you're not feeding the negativity. So it has no staying power. Stepping back from your thoughts in such a way can be liberating and improve your life's quality. So now you feed the positive thoughts. You feed the positivity that you're giving it, or even just the neutrality to step back and go, okay, what's up with this? Let's take a look at it. Naming the actual issue that is driving the negative thought patterns can be what breaks its grip over your mental state. Specifically identifying the emotion, specifically identifying the negative thought pattern. Why am I feeling like this? What emotion am I feeling, and why am I feeling this? Is this true or is it not true? Why am I giving so much of my emotional energy to this thing? And it's just a thought. Being vague about the concerns driving your negative mindset and mental state will empower that mindset. Oh, it's no big deal. Let's just gloss over it with a broad brush and make it very vague, right? Naming the issue can sometimes lead to the realization of its commonality and how common it actually is, especially in the beginning. It's always going to be the same thing. It's always the same thing with you, isn't it? Reducing the negative feelings, for example, shame and regret. Once you define it, let it go. Name it. Some people say that naming it gives it power, but no, it gives you power over the name. And now you specifically know when that emotion comes up again, you have a name for it. It's like, you, Tom, get the fuck out. Right? The rest of these people are cool for now. But once I identify them, yeah, some of them fuckers are going to be leaving too. They can't be in my party. I'm going to change the name of the pity party to a positive party. The tool allows you to separate it from reality. Naming it will help you notice the pattern. Regarding the principles of neuroplasticity, defining the negative thought pattern engages the frontal cortex, allowing you to move it from the emotional centers of the brain. The effect is the widening perspective, which gives you a better prediction of the impact that it has. Do not be aggressive when naming your thought processes to avoid inviting negative emotions into your mental state. If you're aggressive, you're in a negative thought loop. You're in an emotional state of aggression. It's a negative pattern. Let it go. Let it take its own time, because the ego is always going to be there. You have to embrace letting it go. You cannot do that if you're fighting with it. It's going to defend itself. It's going to root itself in, and you're not going to get it out. You have to let it leave on its own. Just identify it, right? Practicing kindness and gentleness, especially on yourself, will lead to the appearance of positive emotions. You don't forgive Uncle Ted for raping you, or Aunt Donna for, calling you some names. You forgive the event that happened and your emotions that you put with it. You forgive Uncle Ted because you're forgiving yourself. You're forgiving the idea of Uncle Ted that is in your mind. You don't go up to Uncle Ted and say, "Oh man, I forgive you for raping me, man." No, you're going to get there and you're going to look at him and you're going to be triggered and you're going to beat his ass, right? Same thing for whomever else has done wrong to you. You're doing it for the idea of that. You can write a letter and burn it. You can just think about it and let it pass, because the only thing it's doing is breeding more negative thought patterns whenever you think about it. And then because your dad is linked to Uncle Ted because it's his brother, now, it's going to leak into Dad, how could you let Uncle Ted do that to me? And now Dad is wrapped up in the rape that you have never told anybody about. And now you're mad at Dad because he doesn't even freaking know what the hell's going on. The tool can encourage the production and distribution of neurotransmitters that will prevent positive thought patterns. So let's stick with the positive stuff, because you can name every freaking negative event that ever happened to you and the emotion associated. But can you do the same for your positive thoughts and your positive feelings? When was the last time you talked about the sunset? Connecting with your senses of hearing and sight and smell and taste and touch can help remove the negative thought processes. You need to tap into the positive effects that can help you redirect your thoughts to a more positive mental state. Therefore, it can also provide a mechanism for keeping in touch with your facts, negating negative thinking processes that have a non-factual basis, such as redirection. It will help you notice the changes in your environment, providing you with a higher appreciation of reality. You can then countercheck the authenticity of the thought process against the actuality you are now in tune with via your senses. Be aware. Do not go into a mental dialogue about what you are experiencing. Just be and just experience. Stop analyzing. You can regard the process as a type of self-awareness. Deliberate living in the now can help you get rid of negative thought patterns. You're deliberately living. You're not analyzing. You're in the now. You're not concerned about what's going to happen 10 minutes from now in the future. You're not going to worry about the depression of the past. You're just going to be. Allow the universe to give you the gifts that it wishes you to have, rather than sending out negative emotions saying, hey, universe, I want some more of this Uncle Ted raped me stuff. Because like will attract like. It's the law of vibration. This type of living, deliberately, it will provide you a sense of clarity in what your values are and your intended goals. This type of living will provide you with a framework for taming your mind. You can achieve a state of self-awareness through the process of mindful meditation. For maximum effect, practice meditation regularly. You will have the additional benefit of improving your immunity, which may protect you from disease that may lead to negative thinking processes. Because disease is a negative thing, right? The calmness that meditation produces will provide you with a sense of satisfaction, which can quiet the negative thoughts from the negative thinking processes. Meditation gives you the tools to be in tune with the present, which will protect you from the hazards of mentally living in the past or into the future. Meditation will, therefore, help you increase your levels of self-awareness. Meditation helps you identify when your mind starts to wander and provide you with the tools to bring it back under control. That way you can identify when your mind starts to wander towards the negative and bring it back and use that energy for the positive. You use the tool to pull your thoughts from a place of negative to positive. The same is quite correct when you guide your awareness back to the present by meditation, rather than worrying about the future and regretting your past actions and decisions. Man, I shouldn't have done that. Well, don't dwell on it. Just move forward. Could I have handled the situation better? Yes. But at the time, no. Why are you thinking about it? Meditation provides you with the help you need to increase your levels of self-awareness. It provides a framework to connect back to your senses anytime you lose track of reality. Continual reflection will create habits through the power of neuroplasticity that will extend to your mental state, affecting your thought process positively. As you practice, it'll become easier to let go of negative thoughts. The peace that you experience as you meditate will provide you with positive thoughts, therefore negating the negative ones. You may experience mental lightness as the negative thoughts leave your mindset because you're not feeding them your energy. Because trust me, the negative thoughts will suck that energy out of you. You know that because you're looking for coffee. You're looking for a pick-me-up. You're looking for the energy drinks, the energy pills. That's what you're looking for because you're pushing out your energy towards the negative feelings that are just sucking them in like a huge freaking vacuum cleaner. And you wonder why you don't have any energy because you're focused on the negative. Emotions like joy may accompany the process of meditation, which will further encourage the formation of positive thought processes and more meditation. The strength of the neural pathways associating with such thoughts will increase every time you engage in a positive meditation. Focus on the positive. Maybe you need to write some stuff down in the beginning. That's what you need to focus on. Your sense of self-compassion will arise. It will diminish the sound of self-criticism mentally, therefore leading to a generation of positive thoughts, or the generation of positive thoughts. And now you're in a positive thought loop. The result can be a higher ability to tolerate stressors, therefore lessening your probability of falling into the trap of the negative thought processes. So how are we going to redirect these? We redirect them by embracing the growth mindset. We've already talked a little bit about meditation. Maybe you need to check that out. Well, you do need to check that out, but here in the growth mindset, you consider negative occurrence as an opportunity to do better in another chance, as a learning experience, as opposed to a judgment and emotion of who you are as an individual. Redirecting negative thought processes can be through having an overall goal for your thoughts. Here, you can, for example, purpose yourself to focus on positive thoughts or choose to find a way to turn the negative thoughts into positive possibilities. Yeah, it looks like a negative, but how can this be turned into a positive thing? You can also redirect your thoughts by training your mind to embrace focused attention. The key here is focus on positive thoughts and actions that may negate the negative thoughts and feelings. The deed may increase the functionality of areas linked to positive thoughts that create a positive feedback loop. Preparing in advance on how to deal with negative thoughts can be the key to redirect them to a positive mental possibility. The strategy may work for repetitive situations that result in negative thought processes. Here, one needs to be specific on how they will handle various situations. The redirection aids in the dealing with negative thought patterns as it taps into the possibility of the development of competitive wiring. The rival positive mental networks can take over the areas controlled by the negative brain wiring, right? So when we're talking about this is neuroplasticity. You can go to Psych-K, you can go to Greg Braden, you can go to Bruce Lipton. There's plenty of people out there that have scientific proof, Dr. Dospenda, scientific proof that the brain can be rewired from negative to positive because there's only enough glue in the neurons to link certain things together. So if you continually reinforce the negative thought loop, you're reinforcing the neural connection for the negative, and now you have a negative thought loop inside the brain. This is like a physical wiring that you're usually set up at. So when you stop thinking about those negative thoughts and start thinking about the positive ones, now you have a positive feedback loop. It's the same thing. It's just everybody is caught up through their brainwash programming to the negative thought loop pattern, and we need to change those neural connections into positive ones. Connecting to the senses that a thought process initiates can redirect the thinking process. The attention that the thought would have attracted is now in use to focus on the sensory effect. New neural pathways can occur when you practice self-awareness regularly. The same transpires through the power of neuroplasticity. You can use the power of questions to redirect your mindset from one of the negative thought processes to a positive viewpoint. This is also in the appendix of my book, Habituating Happiness. The key here is to come up with helpful questions for negative thought processes. So that's chapter 6. We're going to move on to chapter 7 in the human misjudgments. So stay tuned.